Thomas used to be known as Mr. Irrelevant, and he was taken with the last pick in the 2011 NBA draft. Since then, his career has grown steadily, and it seems like Isaiah is finally here this season when the Celtics have already won the #1 spot in the Eastern Conference. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the guards Thomas took with him and where they are now. First, Bismack Biyombo and Brandon Knight. If you think Tristan Thompson was a bad choice, just wait until you see Bismack Biyombo. This didn't mean that Biyombo is a bad player, though. He's a great defender and gets rebounds with a lot of energy. Still, that shouldn't be enough to get the 7th pick in the 2011 draft. Biyombo doesn't have a shot from the outside and doesn't seem to want to learn how to make one. The Orlando Magic were tricked into paying $17 million per year for a traditional power forward who can't leave the paint. The Magic are 14th in the Eastern Conference, so it hasn't gone well for them at all. When the draft happened 7 years ago, Thomas wasn't the player he is now, but Biyombo was similar. He still plays the same way he did back then, which isn't what the NBA wants from power forwards these days. Knight was a good point guard at the draft. He was also known for helping Kyrie Irving learn his crazy moves. He was picked by the Detroit Pistons and became their starting point guard. He averaged 12.8 PPG and shot 38% from three-point range. Knight's career is still a little bit all over the place. Some years, you could say that Knight is one of the best point guards in the NBA. In other situations, you just feel bad for him. Knight recently tore his ACL, which means he can't play during the 2017-2018 season. Knight might be able to come back from his injury fully, but at this point, it would be a stretch to even compare him to Isaiah Thomas. He just hasn't had as much success as Thomas has for the Boston Celtics. Next, Kemba Walker and Jimmer Fredette. Kemba Walker is now one of the best point guards in the NBA. Here are some key ways that the two star point guards are different. Kemba Walker is a good player on a team that is just average. A great team has a great player in Isaiah Thomas. Thomas is an MVP caliber player who can make a difference right away for the team. Walker is a star player who does well on his own. Even though Thomas is small for a point guard, he has done well in the playoffs with the Boston Celtics. Walker hasn't won a playoff series and hasn't been in the playoffs very often. Thomas is a good player who makes a difference, while Walker is a good player. Walker was picked 9th in the 2011 NBA draft, and he has lived up to that choice. He probably should have gotten a bit higher on the list. Still, he is not even close to being better than Thomas. Jimmer Fredette has become a great player for China's Shanghai Sharks. He has also given the Sharks 73 points, which is tied for the 4th most in CBA history. He never really did well in the NBA, and the Sacramento Kings, who picked him with the 10th pick in the 2011 draft, stopped liking him. Fredette was picked up so he could become a great shooter like Klay Thompson. Instead, he was put on the bench and became a pretty average three-point shooter. There's nothing wrong. Jimmer is just not as good as Isaiah Thomas. He never was. In the first year with the Kings, Thomas averaged 11.5 PPG, while Fredette only averaged 7.6 PPG. Fredette is still a better shooter than Thomas, but at this point in his career, he isn't as good as Thomas. Moving on, Markieff Morris and Marcus Morris. It was interesting that the Morris twins were picked one spot apart from each other in the 2011 draft. The Suns picked Markieff Morris with the 13th pick in the draft. Markieff Morris went into the NBA with a good name and kept it. He turned into a strong big man who could shoot well. Morris has done a great job for the Washington Wizards. He averages 10.2 points and 4.8 boards per game. He's even making 38% of his shots from three-point range. Still, Morris isn't a player who can score a lot of points quickly. He's just a player who helps Wall and Beal, both of whom are good in his system. That's just about it. Marcus Morris was picked one pick after his brother, but he was just as respected. Marcus is not like his brother because he's a traditional big man who can shoot well from mid-range. Marcus Morris averages 11.6 PPG and 5.2 RPG for the Boston Celtics. He has improved his three-point game and now shoots 36% of the time from deep. In terms of his role, Morris is the same as his brother. He's a great addition to the Celtics. He's their big man who can beat people up in the paint, and he's also a threat from the outside. When they were both on the Celtics, it was clear who the leader was between Isaiah Thomas and Marcus Morris. Marcus was a good backup for Thomas, nothing more and nothing less. Next up, Nikola Vucevic and Iman Shumpert. The Philadelphia 76ers got a great deal when they picked Nikola Vucevic with the 16th pick in the 2011 draft. This year, he is averaging 17.4 PPG and 9.3 RPG for the Orlando Magic. He's a big man who can shoot from the outside and is great at getting the ball back. If the Magic did better, Vucevic might get more attention for how talented he is. Even though the article is about Isaiah Thomas, Vucevic was also a good pick in the draft. He isn't as good of a player as Thomas, but if he can stay healthy, next year could be his time to shine. Iman Shumpert was picked 17th in the draft, and he was supposed to be a 3-and-D player who would always play in the NBA. As of 2018, that hasn't really happened for Shumpert. He's a good shooter, but he can't get his own shot. His defense is fine, but he isn't a stopper who can stop guards from the other team. Shumpert is at best a supporting player, and he could leave Cleveland soon, especially if LeBron James leaves the Cavaliers after the next season. There's not too much to argue about here. Thomas is a better player in every way but defense. This makes me wonder if Shumpert and Thomas could have been switched in the draft 7 years ago. We can't leave out Donatas Motiejūnas and Tobias Harris. With the 19th pick in the NBA draft, Tobias Harris was taken. He should have gone much higher considering what kind of player he is now. Tobias Harris shoots 44% from deep and scores an average of 18 points per game for the Detroit Pistons. Again, he's making 44% of his long shots. That's incredible, and he tries 6 times per game. The Pistons are trying to get back into the playoffs, and Harris is a big part of that. Maybe he could be better than Thomas if he got better at more things like rebounding and passing, but Thomas is the better player right now, at least for now. Donatas Motiejūnas, who used to be a good center in the NBA, is definitely trying to get a job in the NBA. He played well for his position in the NBA, but then just disappeared. Since Motiejūnas doesn't even work in the NBA, he can't be compared to Isaiah Thomas. Why did he get picked instead of Thomas in the first place? Motiejūnas' NBA career has never even come close to Thomas's, so he has to be on this list. Finally, Kenneth Faried and Reggie Jackson. In the 2011 NBA draft, Kenneth Faried was a great pick. Faried was taken in the 22nd pick in the draft, and he turned out to be the dynamic rebounder the Denver Nuggets needed. Faried is a small power forward with a lot of energy who is faster than most of his peers. He doesn't have a good shot, but he helps the Nuggets in their fast-paced offensive sets. Even though Faried isn't in the Nuggets starting lineup as often as he used to be, he is still a key player for the team. However, there are no signs that he will become a star anytime soon. Thomas is better than Faried. Still, the Nuggets had a lot of options. About Reggie Jackson, what can you say? He has worked hard to become one of the best guards in the NBA. Jackson went from being a role player on the Thunder to a starting point guard for the Pistons after being picked 24th in the draft. He's still getting better, and when he's on the court, the Pistons have won more games this season. Will Jackson ever be better than Thomas? Only time will tell, but right now the answer is clear. Thomas is the better point guard, and it all comes down to how he affects his team every night. Isaiah Thomas is a great point guard all around. There's still time for these players to be better than the star point guard, but it won't happen soon. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, cheers!